Hello there. So in this video, I wanted to talk about transition. So that's, let's say, one of the bigger changes when you come into being head of engineering, being a fractional CTO or CTO or something like that, VP, for example. So it's basically a very slow thing that you need to get right. And if you don't get it right, it will cause a lot of confusion and will basically damage stuff. You might get damages in time and deliverables, will make people confused, not happy, all of that stuff. So that one was one of the bigger, let's say, challenges when I first got into this bigger role. And I just want to talk about it in this video. So we had the old way of doing stories. It's not really the old way, it's more like a default way. A lot of companies are doing that. So it is PO, product owner, managed stories. So there was a PM, product manager, who was supposed to answer what and why. Then PO creates stories on the epic, basically comes up with ideas how to split all of that stuff, and writes acceptance criteria. And the idea is that they're supposed to be working together with developers and figure out those stories, but in the reality is that developers are usually busy and doing a lot of other stuff, and it ends up that PO might just do it faster. So that stuff kind of works, but there are some issues when you need to do some technical implementations. There might be some things that just doesn't work how PO thought, for example, or engineers doesn't really get what needs to be done, and therefore there are quite a lot of issues, missing requirements, missing features, stuff like that. So that's practically the old way. And then let's talk about transition challenges. So it's, quite not that easy, let me say. So there are multiple large initiatives going on at the same time, because we're talking not about one team, we're talking about multiple teams that has multiple POs. And each developer is practically leading one thing that that is technically a big feature set, something like that. So you can't really come in and cut it and say, oh well guys, now this is how you're going to do it. That won't work. It won't be really good. So there are a lot of people involved, obviously, in that thing. And the new way that I will tell in a moment actually requires a new way of working for the senior devs and doing kind of different approach on how you even look into those tickets. And it brings new accountability and responsibility. So what helped to do the transition? So devs were frustrated because they're getting bugs, but they didn't really feel that this is because of them, because acceptance criteria maybe sometimes was not correct, maybe something else was not correct, maybe technology was not the right, whatever. So basically, guys knew that there are problems and they wanted to fix it. Let's see what else I have. So also, people want to learn new stuff, turns out. So the new way. What is the new way? So technically move PO, product owner role, onto senior engineer and QA. Basically, we introduced a new term, epic lead. So basically, you have initiative, so you have portfolio initiatives, the main thing, and then you have epics. So it's like a large set of things that needs to be done. But then there's no PO who would be creating those stories, because now the senior developer, who is epic lead, who's becoming accountable of that Epic's implementation has to figure out what stories needs to be done and how it is supposed to work. So probably worth mentioning that, of course, we had massive designs. Practically all the buttons, all the things, what you click, where it goes, what message you get, all of that stuff was there. Of course, under initiative, there was what and why described. So, you kind of get the idea what it is supposed to be. When you look into the designs, you will get the idea how it's supposed to be working. And then our Epic leads were supposed to ask questions on the design, on Figma, directly on the meetings, and so on and so on. So basically, they had to figure out all the things. Not every Epic has only one, let's say, domain where you need to code. It might be iOS, Android, web backend, and maybe something else. Of course, those senior leads usually specialized in one area mostly, and it didn't mean that they had to do all of that themselves. It meant that the person is accountable of getting that stuff right and getting it done. So when all of the stories are ready, all of the stuff is there, other people can obviously help. So basically, the development process itself isn't that different when you get there, but the main difference is how you get to the things that needs to be done and ask the questions, clarify all the things, and all of that stuff. So basically, Epic Lead was supposed to write the document, how they understand the thing, what impediments they see, what could go wrong, what is it a large, is it medium, is it something else? And also we moved in QAs, so the QA has also to look into the whole thing and write highlights, look into the whole description, look into stories, and mark things that might go wrong also. So it's not really test plan for that because it's a bit too early in that moment, but since they know the whole thing really well, they were helping to figure out early what might need extra attention. So as mentioned, Epic Lead doesn't mean that you have to do it all yourself. It means that they are basically leading the whole thing. So how did we do it? So started obviously with one most enthusiastic senior, got the agreement on how we will approach, discussed, tried small steps to move forward to get all of that stuff done. Along the way, figured out bunch of things, bunch of various elements in the process that goes wrong, what's not really that clear, what is too hard, maybe needed. We actually changed a little bit how we design things and how PMs write the what and why, so it would be easier. So it's like, that's why it's not that fast, because you basically change multiple processes to work together nicely. So it's not, that's why it's takes so much time. It's like we're talking about half a year, something like that. One quarter could be done, but like roughly more. What else? So updated things along the way, streamlined the process a bit, and after one was ready, we introduced another person to do another initiative, and basically one by one eventually switched to the whole new completely complete approach. So the wins, no need for POs anymore because all of the thing gets done by engineers. It turned out it has way less bugs, which is also really nice. Way less corrections. There were not that many missed requirements, for example. So what I mean with missed requirements is, let's say, maybe button missing. Let's say on one view you have send email, on the list you do not have send email, something like that. But maybe you actually need on both ways. Maybe something weird. So you get all of that figured out. Because when you look into it, when you want to just write ticket, you might miss it because you focus on the story. You do the view, you do the functionality, then next one, you might do it in multiple days. You might forget that there was a button somewhere, And when the engineer who will be doing the majority of that thing looks into it, they immediately remember, that's that function, that's that function. We need to connect all of that stuff. We can reuse it somewhere else, blah, 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 blah. So it's a bit different, bit more effective way of looking into it. So it didn't became slower because it turns out, if you start doing that quite early, basically 1 quarter ahead, you are good. So that's a win. What else? So much happier stakeholders, and our developers got quite happy because it's cool stuff, more responsibility, more interesting work. You see more of the product, and you actually impact it. You basically ask questions, you give suggestions, and you shape the whole thing in the way how you understand it should be. And that's how we basically transitioned from senior software developer into product developer, senior or not senior. So that's a good win. And that's basically what you would get when you go to senior leadership, and that stuff that you are solving and trying not to mess up.